What are the elements of building an 8-figure publishing company?
The big thing is knowing your audience and knowing that there's a hot market that wants your products. Something different, something unique, something that nobody else is doing for that hot market that's already hungry for it. If you want to find a really good product or want to beat somebody's marketing, see who's running ads again and again and again and again, find the stuff that's really working and just find ways to do it a little bit better. It's actually interesting. I went to AI4, which is one of the biggest conferences of AI in North America. The first keynote speaker was this guy, and they call him the godfather of AI. And his 30-minute keynote was how AI is taking over the world, how it's dangerous, how we're making a big giant mistake.
When you are producing content, what's the biggest mistake you can make with AI?
I think it's really the fact that you're just using AI as it is. You have to train it, especially if you're using something like ChatGPT.
Francis Ablola.
Yes.
I'm grateful to be able to pull you off stage.
I love being it. Love doing it.
Get you away from your responsibilities to, teach me some stuff about live events and marketing and business in general.
Well, we've known each other for a really long time too.
We have, and I don't even know how long, but
it's been at least 15 years.
That is wild.
I would say. Yeah, I think you worked with my brother for a while too.
I think you're right.
Yeah. So,
damn.
Yeah, long time.
Yeah, I love it. Well, we are at the Family Mastermind event.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of badass people here.
Yeah.
You being one of them.
Oh, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Likewise.
Appreciate that.
It's a great room though, like a crazy room.
It really is. You have worked with a bunch of people in the room, but you have scaled multiple 8-figure brands.
Yep.
That leads me to believe that you have some idea of how to do it.
Part of it is just being around the right people and learning the right things at the right time. So I've spent my entire adult life in the world of publishing, information publishing, coaching, and being able to work for a company that was already doing 8 figures when I got there, as I think I was 22, 23 years old when I started working for Ron LeGrand. That was my first space in this world. Before that, I actually worked for a Fortune 1000 company, for a $1 billion company. I was brought in to manage their online marketing at 22, which is another funny story. But
when you were 22?
When I was 22.
Oh my God.
So I was completely unqualified.
This sounds like a terrible proposition.
It worked. So I was started as an entrepreneur at 21. I proposed to my wife. We moved out together. And then I was completely broke because I was a broke, struggling entrepreneur for about, I don't know how many years. And I needed a job, but I was studying direct response the entire time. And so I learned about the Wow Box from Gary Halbert. And so there's 2 positions. I like, if I'm gonna go find a job, I want the biggest one I can possibly find. So 2 companies. One was Venus Swimwear. The other one was this big Fortune 1000 NPS group. It's a staffing company. And they had a job position open. It needed a 10 years experience and an MBA. I was a college dropout and I was 22 years old. So I didn't start when I was 12, but I did this Wow Box. I did this sales letter, and I got I sent it FedEx next day. And when they received it, it was 10 a.m. next day. I got a call that same day. And both places I sent it. And I had my pick of which role, and I got the job. I was a wonder kid. I worked there for about 2 years and then went over to Ron's office. Right, I did the same thing. I wrote him a sales letter and got the job over at Ron's.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's wild. You got to explain the concept for 2 things. One, first, Gary Halbert, anybody that's referencing him, which is like the predecessor to Dan Kennedy, sort of.
Yeah.
We know that they've been studying direct response, actually.
Yeah.
2, break down the Wow Box a little bit, because I think this principle is interesting in like every area of life.
Well, so the big thing Gary Halbert was a huge influence on me. Actually, I learned marketing from going to one of his seminars and completely berated me in the room. And so I was 20 years old at the time. And it was a small room. There's like 20 or 30 people in the room. It was one of his very last seminars before he passed. Great marketer, one of the best copywriters to ever live. And he was going around doing hot seats with people. And he said, all right, give me the idea. Tell me about your business. And I raised my hand. I was like a cocky 20-year-old. I was like, I got this business. And then it was actually for John Gordon, who is now he has like 11 best-selling books. Back then, it was his very first book. And I was promoting his very first book. And it was on energy. And so I said, all right, I got a product. It's with this new speaker. It's a new author. And he asked me about it. And I was like, it's about how to get more energy. And he asked me all right, how do you do that? And I said, I actually don't know. Drink more water. And then he was like, you don't know anything about your product. You don't know anything about your clients. And he completely bashed me in front of the entire, I was like the youngest person in the room.
Oh my God.
And he bashed me in a good way, not in a good way. It was actually humiliating. But I learned from that moment, you have to understand your product better than anybody else. You have to understand your clients, your avatar, and that made me a better copywriter. And so I spent 20 years learning copy, which now you can do with AI in 20 minutes and shortcut that time period, which we do, and we teach our students to do that. But I spent 20 years learning how to be a copywriter, and it all comes down to understanding audience, understanding a way to be different, a way to get their attention in a unique way. And so the wow box comes from Gary Halbert as well. It was a FedEx box, and I remember these two because I had to send two out. There's two positions I wanted, but I only had like $50 in my bank account. And to send out those two FedEx boxes with what I had in them was $44. So it was literally my last dollars to send these things out.
Wow.
And so they were next day air, 10 a.m. received. And the idea is you open it up. It wasn't just a resume. It was a cover letter, but it was a well-crafted sales letter. I think I stole the idea from Gary Halbert's on the opening. I attached the Starbucks gift card attached, and it was a FedEx box. And the opening line was, hey, you're receiving this letter, and you can notice that it's a FedEx box with a Starbucks gift card attached. Why have I done this? One is I think it's of urgent importance to your business and growth. And two, I'd like to discuss some ideas that can help you. Maybe over coffee, it's on me. And then inside was a full-on sales letter. I analyzed their websites and gave them like a bunch of SEO pointers and PPC pointers inside of there. And I had a bunch of pictures of me because I would go to seminars. So I had a picture of like Bill Arancic, that was back then, from the First Apprentice. So I had a bunch of pictures of real celebrities and things like that. And I threw it in there. And yeah, I got calls from both companies the next day. And so that was the wow. It was something completely different. And again, this was a Fortune 1000 company. They had, I think, 20,000, 30,000 employees at the time when I worked there. And I was able to get the attention and get the job and, find my place there, and got bored of the corporate world and left and joined the entrepreneurial world.
I think that there are a couple big things there. One, it really doesn't take that much to stand out.
No.
You put energy in, right? But that's number two, is that if you put energy in on a routine basis, regardless of what the result is, you start to build a habit of putting the energy in all the time. And there are tons of people that never take action because they don't know if the action is going to produce an outcome. And so they just don't bother taking the action at all.
Yeah. There's a level of trust and confidence you have to have in yourself from the get-go to do these kind of things. And I didn't grow up like with a confident attitude whatsoever. I learned, that's all learned. That's all learned through personal development. That's all learned through books and tapes and meeting the right people. But, being able to go out and do something and spend your last $40 on a job that you don't know, that you're completely unqualified for, or now. And I always tell my kids now, it's okay to do hard things.
Yeah.
Right? Everybody leans toward easy. If somebody asks, and we coach a lot of entrepreneurs, and the biggest question, especially in my AI classes, we teach a lot of AI classes, what's the easiest way to generate a lead? What's the easiest way to generate sales with AI? And so in our coaching, we're like, all right, so I know you want the easy way, but I want you to be better. So AI is making everything easier across the board for everyone. If you believe and subscribe to that, well, you're not going to stand out whatsoever. So you need to develop the skills, you need to develop the talents, you need to develop the relationships, and AI makes those things better, but you stand out further from that. And that was a huge, huge departure of, hey, I just want to be easy. I want to do it. I don't have the confidence to do this. It's okay to do hard things.
Yeah. I think it's not only okay, I think it's super important.
Yeah.
Actually, there's some studies now that I'm not going to pretend to actually quote because I don't know what they are. But I've talked to a couple of my smart doctor friends that study this shit and like biohacker people. Yep. There is legitimately a benefit to doing hard things routinely.
Yeah. But
they have to be hard for you. Like, it actually is better for you as a human and will keep you alive longer if you are doing harder things. Yep. And there seems to be a causal relationship there.
There's no growth whatsoever without getting outside of your comfort zone, right?
Yep.
Jim Rohn will always say, how tall can a tree grow? Right? As tall as it can. But humans put their limit on ourselves. And that's a weird thing to do, is that, in nature things grow because that's as big as they grow. Well, for us, we stop us. It's our environment, it's the people around us, it's whatever it may be. And getting away from that allows you to open up, changing new peer groups, the whole thing that lifts your mindset out into a different world.
Yeah, it's been a theme for me today. It's weird. I woke up and hit the gym, and I was talking to Trevor Mock about, I just mentioned this to King Kong, but we were talking about growth. And like, I truly believe that growth is the point of life. Like, it is what keeps you moving. It's what makes you happy. It's that progress in life that is satisfying, but you got to flex that muscle all the time.
Well, it's that. You just mentioned Trevor. So Trevor's one of my dear friends. We met when we were kids, like not kids, but 20-year-olds in entrepreneurship. We were always the youngest people in the seminar room. And so it's that growth mindset, but coming up with people who are also have that mindset. And so Trevor, and there's a few of our friends that we met at a seminar back in 2008 that were all the 21, 22, 23-year-olds in the room that were the youngest people there that all grouped together. Now, I'm 41 now, that all kind of grew up at the same time through entrepreneurship, all supported each other throughout the entire way. We're always there to pick up the phone and have a conversation and get ourselves back on track. That was a massive thing for us.
Yeah.
And we don't speak as often as we used to when we were back in our 20s. We all have lives and kids. We didn't have kids and things like that back then. But that was a massive thing for our growth. It was just connecting with the right people and staying in group with your own mastermind or your own tribe, your people that you know they're always there for you. Because in our everyday lives, oftentimes it's some people aren't there for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was a huge, huge thing for us.
Yeah. Well, I think today you've got a lot of other options too, right? At the time, I mean, we are at a real estate educator event right now. I grew up with, Tony Robbins CDs. I didn't have the tapes. I'm not that old. I had the CDs.
I got the CDs too.
But, he was my peer group, right? He was the mentor. He was the accountability partner. And so if you don't have those actual people in your life, there are all these other avenues now. And like today, podcasts are, or YouTube or whatever, fucking Insta, TikTok, like you can get it wherever you want.
There's so many ways to plug in and grow your mind.
Yeah, there really are.
And so for free, there's YouTube, like you just mentioned. I used to go to libraries. I used to get books and I used to get CDs. Kind of ashamed to say this. I used to burn the CDs, right? So I can listen to them over and over and over again. After I returned them, I would burn the CDs that are there. But everything you can possibly imagine was there. Now you got YouTube. Now, like you mentioned, TikTok, Headspace, Blinkist, all these things. You can read any book on Speechify that takes any book and turns it into an audiobook for you. And just plug in. And I see so many people not taking advantage of that, which is crazy to me.
How much time do you spend deliberately focusing on personal development now, if any?
I still plug in a lot, right? So a lot of it's different. It's different skill set things now. So it might be more specific. It's not just general Tony Robbins motivational type information. I still listen to Jim Rohn a lot. And I still actually work heavily in the self-development niche. So one of the jobs that I had very early on before that Fortune 1000 company, I was a web developer in high school. And how I first got plugged in was my boss's brother ran a motivational seminar company, and we did all their website work. And they had a website called MLM Challenge and JimRohnChallenge.com. And so MLM Challenge was a site for MLM people. It was a membership site. This was back in 2000. I didn't know how to program really, so I made a fake username and password box.
Nice.
I just gave everybody the same username and password across the board. And they sold it for $67 a month.
Amazing.
And they had, a whole bunch, but a really good number of people. But I got plugged in, listened to that. And then their father, those guys' father, was good friends with Jim Rohn. So they ran the Jim Rohn Challenge. And so my job for about 6 weeks was doing nothing but listening and editing Jim Rohn tapes to put on the site. That turned everything on for me. So I've been a lover of personal development ever since. And now for me, I have 4 kids. A big thing that I'm doing with them is teaching them entrepreneurship. We homeschool, like we're the weirdos. We don't socialize, all that kind of stuff, whatever it may be. I take my daughter to seminars. She's been to an AI seminar. She's going to a real estate seminar with me in 2 weeks. She works for me. She's teaching herself how to edit videos, and she has a YouTube channel at 14. My other kids, they listen to me do, for my team, I used to do a 9 at 9. Now we do motivational trainings for our team. I'm speaking to them. They listen in as part of their schoolwork.
That's amazing.
So I'm always plugged in, especially as a leader, right? You have to, it's not only yourself, but it's the people around you at that point, especially when you're scaling a business, when you're growing a business. It's about who's around you and making sure their headspace is right too.
Yeah. Well, I don't have any kids. I don't think. But I am always thinking about how kids are raised. Yeah. Probably not always, but often. Yeah. The homeschooling thing to me is there's a direct parallel to growing anything, whether it's a family or a business or whatever. But the energy that you put in and focus on it, homeschooling is the thing that I would want to do because you have control over all of the influence of your family and your youth. And to farm that out, to delegate that out to a school system that we're all very aware is broken as fuck.
In a really weird world today. It's a really weird world.
Super weird. Yeah. I would like to have the control and influence there. So I think that's beautiful. Okay, so I have an agenda with you because there are several elements of business that you're involved in that are dope, that people should learn more about.
Mm-hmm.
Live events being one of them.
Yes.
And kind of how you have created several 8-figure brands. We're going to talk about AI because, people seem to care.
Mm-hmm.
And it's some ninja shit going on right now. And then some other stuff.
Okay.
But tell me about Real Advisors.
Sure.
And tell me like the general frame of the business. And and then we'll talk about the events themselves. So tell me the business model.
Yeah. So Real Advisors is a publishing company. And we used to publish other companies. Now we're only doing our own internal brands. It started back in 2017. I reached out to our friend of ours, our mutual friend, Dolmar Cross.
Yeah.
And I had just worked for a few companies, and I was kind of quiet doing some freelance stuff. But
let me pause you for one second, because the publishing company, that label immediately makes sense to everybody that sells information.
Sure, yeah.
But the rest of the world is thinking, is it newspapers? Like, does he have magazines?
So,
like,
no, that's a great question.
What the fuck does that mean?
So we produce digital content, both in product form, so courses, seminars, and coaching programs.
Got it.
And so right now we have two brands. One is our Dolmar Cross Automated Investor, and another one is AIforbusiness.com. We actually had several more live seminar brands as well.
Yeah.
And I had been working in this space for a while, and I had actually worked for one of the larger real estate education companies, and it actually got shut down by the FTC.
Oh, fun.
And so the next day after that whole thing went public, I got a call from the CEO, and he called me, and I was like, all right. And he said, okay, Francis, all right, let's forget about that. What's the next thing we're going to do? I got a new idea. And I just hung up the phone. And I was like, I don't want to do that anymore. And so I had to go introspective and say, all right, I was making a lot of money. We were selling a lot of products, but were we really serving people? And if I had to look deep into it, I was just a copywriter is what I said, but I knew that they weren't really serving people. And I believe it was like a $200 million judgment, and they sold it for $20 million. Right. So that felt a real, and I had kids at this time. It was my first, I think I had my first two. I have four. And I was like, am I doing work that my kids are going to be proud of? And I couldn't say that. So I called up, this was a few years later thinking about that, called up my friend Dolmar, said, hey, you're the top investor that I know. You're doing a bunch of deals. I want to create a education program of people that I know are doing deals, that care about their students, that can grow. And that's what we did. And so we started with, actually it wasn't Dolmar, it was with our friend Lee Carney. And then we moved into the commercial investing space. And now we have our current brands. But it's all based off information, that stuff that we do real, and we teach, we coach, we help entrepreneurs. And that's a really fulfilling thing that we do.
A number of things I want to hit on there. But to close the loop on publishing, you find people that hopefully have expertise in an area and help them get that information out to the world and monetize it.
Yeah.
That's basically what the publishing platform.
Yeah, that's the publishing model, but now we don't really go after clients anymore for that. We create our own now.
Do it yourself. Yeah. Yep, love that. But that's how it started.
That's how it started.
Was publishing other people's information who were the experts, and you created the info for them.
Exactly.
The other thing that you said was, you brought up the FTC, and I think most of the world, when the FTC condemns you, you are condemned to the world.
Yeah.
If you are inside of the info product space and you have done well or been around long enough, when the FTC condemns you, you might just realize that the FTC is a super shady organization and they're terrible. So maybe it's possible.
Yeah.
You might think that. But there is very much a problem with that agency and being guilty until proven innocent, and not innocent until proven guilty. In the case that you were talking about, it sounds like maybe they were warranted in the...
Yeah, I would say maybe they were warranted. Yeah.
I think it's an interesting distinction because, we had a client that got an FTC suit, big name real estate educator, and he got an FTC suit because he was in somebody else's commercial 10 years ago.
Yeah.
It wasn't even his product. He was just in their commercial. So he got cited in this FTC suit, which has crazy ripples in the banking world, the merchant account world, et cetera. And that's horrible.
Yeah.
Right?
They're aggressive.
They're super aggressive.
Extremely aggressive.
Yeah.
And I've been through it a few times just as a consultant or advisor to companies or friends that have gone through that. It's an aggressive process. It ruins lives.
Yeah, it really does.
It ruins lives. Yeah.
Yeah, it really does. So I like to click on that one when it comes up because because it's like, was it a bad FTC thing or like a FTC being the FTC thing?
There's probably a mix of both.
Yeah.
There's a mix of both in that case.
There probably often is, right? Yeah. Okay, that's great. So you launched the publishing thing, and now you've got your own brands in-house. And did you learn the skill set to do that through the initial Fortune 1000 that you work for?
It was actually not the Fortune 1000. I was working for Ron LeGrand.
Oh, right.
And so after that, I got bored of that whole world. I live in Jacksonville, and I was a huge student of Dan Kennedy, which you mentioned, Gary Halbert, Dan Kennedy. Dan Kennedy was another influence in my life greatly, especially through Ron LeGrand. So I met Ron at one of Dan Kennedy's super summits, and I saw him there. I had known him. I'd seen his infomercials. I knew he was a real estate investing guru. And but I saw him there, and I kind of followed him like a puppy dog. I was 22 years old. Like, so I was just kind of going around and trying to get as much face time with this guy, because it was Dan Kennedy's top, one of the top students and most successful, and he lives in Jacksonville and all this kind of stuff. And
he's also a giant. He's like 6'6" or something.
Yeah.
He's a large human.
I tried to be part of his posse at that event. I know he had no clue who I was or even remembered that, because we worked together for years after that. And we went back to Jacksonville. I actually bought his product there. He did a breakout session. I bought his product, and then just kind of showed my face around. And then when they put a job out, I wrote a sales letter to Ron, and that's what got me the job. And next day, I got a phone call. It was a decent sales letter. It's in his training materials for one of his marketing courses still.
Awesome.
So years after, it still works. And I worked for Ron in his office for 6 months, and then we've done stuff on and off for, I guess, 15 years later. I just did an event for him 2 months ago. So yeah.
Now you're publishing things, namely your own stuff at the moment. What are the elements of building an 8-figure publishing company or an 8-figure offer?
An 8-figure. So the big thing is knowing your audience and knowing that there's a hot market that wants your product. And so it's really difficult to want to create demand into a product if it doesn't exist. So you want to make sure that there's a market for the product, and then you want to make sure that you have a unique, something different, something unique, something that nobody else is doing for that hot market that's already hungry for it. And that's the biggest thing. Gary Halbert will always say, if you want to find a really good product or want to beat somebody's marketing, you look through do all the research. You look through all the magazines. Those magazines back then. So he was running ads again and again and again and again. Find the stuff that's really working and just find ways to do it a little bit better. And so for us, when we launched a few of our brands that really skyrocketed super fast, we knew that there was a market there. We knew that there were similar products. We knew we could market better. And so after Ron, I actually worked for a lot of different publishing companies. And that's how I learned how to write copy. I learned from genius copywriters. I learned from tons of mentors. And it's got really good at the marketing stuff. And when it comes down to it's understanding your audience, understanding your message, how that's unique, and then have a killer offer that doesn't compare to anything else. So we were one of the first ones in our space to do really high ticket offers over the phone, like straight from application to high ticket. And from that, moving into having a back end. So we had a really high ticket back end as well. And so knowing your customer, knowing your audience, knowing your product, knowing what customer journey that serves them the most is massive. And you put all those things together and you have a really good formula that you can repeat over and over and over again. So our newest brand, AI for Business, is something that it's skyrocketing right now. We're investing a lot in the name and the brand, and we're doing it confidently because we have this formula that we know works. And we've seen lots of great feedback, lots of great customers coming through that in just a couple months' time.
How much time do you spend planning out the funnel and the strategy and exactly what the hook is, the value proposition, et cetera, versus executing on the actual build?
So that's an interesting question. So how much time do I actually spend? So the build itself, we have a team, right? So I don't know what time they put in to the build. I just expect the result to be done. But the planning is different. So I don't sit there. It's always in my head. And I learned this from being a copywriter. Again, this is something I picked up from learning from like Gary Halbert and his tapes and courses. He would just sit on an idea. And so I just sit on ideas. And I might go, and as a freelance copywriter, I would do this all the time. Somebody would hire me for a project and I'd say, hey, it's 3 months to get done. I'd wait until, the week before it's due after 3 months and finish the project. But I'm thinking of the project the entire time. I'm doing my research. I'm cramming for exactly what I did. So actually, I'm doing a presentation here on Wednesday. It was due on Thursday. I turned it back on Saturday. I didn't start until Saturday afternoon. Right?
I need that pressure.
It's that pressure. But in my head, I'm thinking about what are the hooks, what are the audiences. I'm seeing other things out there. The best thing that I do is actually, if I'm working on a project and get stuck, I just go to sleep. Like I'm done with this, go to sleep. I let my subconscious brain fill in all the pieces. So I'm always planning new offers constantly, and I'm always offering new hooks, always different dimensions of way to approach things. So there's not really a planning session. And sometimes there is to communicate that to the team and lay it out on a whiteboard. And that's one of my favorite things to do is to train and teach our team to grow. But yeah, the planning is always happening. The build out, we have a really good team. So we have good team members that know how to do what they do, and they build things out relatively fast once we get the idea to them.
If you're a 25-year-old entrepreneur that wants to sell information about something, how much time should they spend planning versus executing on the build?
So 25, piggybacking off what I just said, planning is probably the most important piece of everything. The build out's really easy. You can send it out and you can farm it out to anybody who has experience building ClickFunnels or GHL funnels. And it's the copy, it's the hook. I'd say that's 75% or 80% of the project itself. Right? If you're things like ClickFunnels, things like Go High Level and those funnel builders make it so easy. Right?
Yeah.
I started building funnels in front page and HTML.
Yeah.
And so the amount of time I had to spend and learn all that kind of stuff and do stuff in Microsoft Paint. Like to think about my first funnels were done in Microsoft Paint.
Dude, Sam Bell taught me how to host a WordPress site in like 2006 or 7 or something.
Exactly. That's all the options we had.
Yeah, man.
So yeah,
I was in cPanel and shit. That's crazy.
And like that's all the stuff that works still. Like, and ClickFunnels has made it super easy, and all these tools have made it super easy, but the skill is what's needed. And I'd say that's like 80% of the work.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, so what are the elements let's talk about the model itself, because live events are a big focus or have been a big focus for you. And you talked a little bit about this. The education model in general tends to be some sort of low dollar amount offer on the front end, sometimes recurring, sometimes not, that sells into a higher ticket thing that has a high dollar amount back end. And often there's a live event component in there. How do you fill live events?
So right now we're doing virtual events to lead into live events. So with our newest brand, we have a 3-day virtual event, and that's free, which is something that we haven't done in the past. So we have a free event, and it's actually funny. We get paid either 50 cents to $1.50 per person who subscribes, because we have a self-liquidating offer. We have an offer that pays for itself once in the door. And so somebody signs up for free. They get the VIP option, which is now $47. And there's a series of orders right after that, even before they attend the event. And so we're making, from the front, about 40% of our money back of our ad spend.
So register for events, and in between the registration, which is free, and the actual event happening, you sell them some shit.
We sell them stuff immediately from that day one.
Awesome.
And then during the events, we are actually pushing our VIP heavily as well. So we're up positive anywhere from 105 to 125% on our dollar. And we do these events every other week right now. So we're turning our dollars back really, really fast. And so that allows us to have a lot of wiggle room. Those are virtual events. And that's before we sell any type of back end. So on the front, just from low ticket purchases, we're making our money back, which is kind of like the holy grail for marketers to spend $1, get $1 back right away. Because you have the leads, you have the lifetime value of the potential customers. And so after that, to fill what we're doing in our live events now, is we have a $9.97 product that is packaged with a live event. So come to our office, check us out, experience us. Now we're taking cold traffic who's never heard of us a week before and turning that to a $1,000 buyer, which will eventually be a $10,000 buyer or more. And to do that, we have to build a lot of trust. We have to build a lot of credibility. We have to show them what we actually know what we're doing, actually show them and give them results for themselves. And so, walking through that process of taking somebody, especially in the market today, because there's so much more competition in the market. Right? Like I just mentioned ClickFunnels. You can start a funnel in 5 minutes, right? So now you have a new competitor every single second. So you are creating that marketing across the board and leading them in this trust journey, this relationship, and that becomes scalable. So once you get that down, once you get creative down, once you get your idea, your plan down, then it just becomes numbers. And you just add more numbers, more dollars to the front, and you get the same predictable. That's how you scale. That's how you scale to it.
So that's a beautiful sentiment. And most people never get to paint by numbers, right? Most businesses, statistically, the vast majority fail, and the vast majority never really stabilize a structure, and the vast majority never scale as a result. You mentioned cold traffic, and it sounds like for you, the foundation of how you scale these offers. or these independent businesses. Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, LinkedIn, like what platforms work? Like, are Facebook ads dead?
No, not at all. In fact, our main offer right now is scaled on Facebook ads, and we're looking to spend much more. We're just trying to spend as much money as we possibly can, because now we know the offers. We know our allotted numbers of, we can only want to spend this much per lead, things like that, but everything else is now scalable. So we want to spend as much on Facebook, then we move it to a different channel. So that offer that I'm talking about right now, our AI for Business Summit, is only on Facebook. But once I get that, I want to get to TikTok, I want to get to YouTube, Google Ads. About 2-3 years ago, right at the beginning of COVID, we got banned from Facebook entirely.
Fun.
So yeah, we were spending $5,000 to $10,000 a day on ads. We had a sales floor of 16 people or so, and all that went away because Facebook said no, thank you. And so now we had to find other channels. So all the channels work. Not all the channels work. All the channels work depending on your offer. But I would say Facebook ads, YouTube ads work phenomenally well for these types of offers. TikTok ads work really great for these types of offers as well. There's email and affiliate traffic. There's solo email traffic. There's so many things you can do, or just building funnels that match that audience. And so newsletters are a great way of building up a giant list. Newsletters are an easy way to fill up from different types of traffic sources. LinkedIn, for example, for our AI for Business offer, we have a LinkedIn newsletter that's growing organically. We did a lot on Instagram shoutouts for a long while. We actually grew our Dolmar Cross real estate brand through Instagram shoutouts, which was crazy. It's something that right after Facebook shut us down, we were like, all right, how do we get more traffic? And my business partner, Brian Hansen, was like, hey, let's do this Instagram shout out thing. We actually had tested a few things already, and we became one of the largest buyers of Instagram shout outs, which is, finding a person who's in your niche and saying, hey, can you talk about our brand on your page? One of the largest buyers in our niche within like months, because we had to figure out how to feed the machine that we already had. So the big thing with shoutouts is there's a lot of crap out there, right? Mm-hmm. So you have to wade through, you have to look at real engagement, you have to, and test. So one of the things that we did really effectively was test lots of different pages. And we don't test big. We don't say, hey, we're going to give you $5,000 to run this ad. We might start smaller, or we might do one shout out instead of like 10 or 20. But you have to find the pages that have the kind of traffic you're looking for. If it's US based, then US based traffic. You have to look at the engagement. Are they a big brand? Is it over 500 or 1 million followers? And if they are, what percentage of those? And there's software tools out there to see, is this a real follower? Is it a follower in India or Bangladesh that's not going to buy something in the United States? And so you have to do a lot of due diligence in the process. But once you start doing that, you can start tracking. You build a list of pages to do shout outs on. And you can kind of cycle through and constantly build up your list of pages that you want to start marketing on.
Your personal Instagram is something like 350,000 people. A bunch of sort of unique, interesting, heartstring, motivational content. Mm-hmm. Does that content convert? Is the intention of that content to convert? Is that being funneled somewhere else, or is this just the personal brand of Francis Ablola?
Well, so it's one, to get a lot of real followers and engagement. So we use meme content. Viral videos are heavy. And so the page right now is growing at about 600 to 1,000 people a day, depending on the videos that are on there. And those are real people, real followers in our target market because they're engaged in the content. It's also part to get my face, because every piece of that content has my face attached to it. And so my face and my name. So part of it's that brand to warm up that page. We've been building that page. My page is sort of like a testing page. And so we try a whole bunch of different things on it. We see what works, what doesn't. It's all real followers, which is really cool. We actually have several other pages. I think we have a network of about 3 to 5 million followers on all of our pages combined right now. And so we test a lot of different things. We found that helps with engagement. And then again, you get that recognition. And then in the link of my bio is a call to action to our offer. And so part of that is we get real followers, and we get a percentage of those people to click. And especially if we do an actual ad on there, or such a shout out on our own page, to click the link in the bio and move to whatever the offer is. And so we do that a lot in stories. We do that a lot on our pages. And you might not see the ads on there because we actually take them down when the offer's over. And because we don't want a whole bunch of ads on the page. And so we want somebody looking at it, they see it's valuable, and then we'll put an ad up, we'll get the result, take it down. And we do that across the board on a lot of our pages.
Oh, I like that idea. Yeah. We have to hit on your current product. AI is taking over the world.
Yep.
And, it might kill us all. We'll find out. I just reference all of it as the robots these days.
It's actually interesting. So I went to AI4, which is one of the biggest conferences of AI in North America. The first keynote speaker was this guy, and they call him the godfather of AI. And his 30-minute keynote was how AI is taking over the world, how it's dangerous, how we're making a big giant mistake. It's gonna be the end. First keynote, first day
Amazing.
of a 3-day event, and then buy and read my white paper on it, and then buy, and you guys have fun for the rest of the AI conference. So yeah, it could take over the world one day, according to this guy.
Well, it's possible.
Yeah.
In the meantime, we're gonna have a lot of fun with it and make a bunch of money.
Exactly.
With it,
Yeah.
I think.
Absolutely.
I think. So when you are producing content, what's the biggest mistake you can make with AI?
I think it's really the fact that you're just using AI as is. You have to train it, especially if you're using something like ChatGPT or Claude, the two really big sort of platforms for generative AI chatbots, is that hey, I want an email. So write me an email about, this podcast, and it gives out whatever it does, right? That's terrible content. That's going to be plagiarized. It's going to be all out there. It's just generic. And so if you can train its voice, you can say, hey, here's a transcript of this podcast. I want you to be a direct response copywriter, focused on the voice, personality, tonality of the two speakers. And I want you to write it from my voice, Brad, from this transcript. Special note of my reading level and my tonality, and write this email to promote this podcast in this voice. Well, you're going to get a much different result than just asking it, hey, I have a podcast with this guy, Francis. Both of us have really cool mohawks. Write the email, right? So you want to train it. And that's what a lot of people don't do. And then they get the result back and it sucks. And they're like, AI doesn't work. Mm-hmm. And so you got to train it. You got to feed it information to know exactly what that output you want to be, and be very specific with that as well. AI prompting is huge. We actually teach a class on that. And if you're not prompting it properly, then it's not going to give you the output that you need.
The best prompt, let's say you've got the best prompt that you've devised. How often are you then copying and pasting the output and actually using that verbatim?
Well, so it depends on what your tasks are. Like, we do have a series of prompts that we do, especially if it's for writing copy and simple tasks. But I've gotten to the point where I'm pretty good at understanding how to put prompts together, and I just type in my voice transcription on my keyboard on my Mac and just talk to the machine. And so it takes me 10 seconds to do that. It actually is faster for me to do that than copy and paste a prompt, especially if it's something unique. And so I know the format that you need to prompt in. And the first thing is you got to give it context of who it is. You got to give it specific examples of what you want. You want to give it, you want to be very, very specific on the format that you want the output to be in. And you go through these things and you're going to get a really good prompt, and it's really just easy to talk to the computer now.
But the output that you get, are you using that verbatim, or are you tweaking it from there?
It's not verbatim, so depending on what it is, right? If it's copy, then I'll look over it, right? Sometimes it's verbatim, depending on how, depending on the usage of it. And sometimes I just get another idea as I read. So as a copywriter, I might read the copy and I'm like, oh, this might sound good here. Yeah. And then I'll throw in my human 2 cents.
Yeah.
But we also have our team members do that all the time, and they just take it straight from AI on the process that I teach them. And they've used it. They make sales online from AI written copy. Right? We have a copywriter on staff. We have the copywriters that we use. My marketing team aren't all copywriters, but I've taught them a very simple process of using transcripts and training AI and how to prompt in a proper way, where they're actually getting emails that make sales.
All right, now what's the product that you made?
So we have a 3-day event called AI for Business Summit, and it's free. It's a free event, and I just talked about the whole process. But our goal is to teach entrepreneurs who just they feel uneasy about AI, whether they're fearful of it or they don't know where to start, or there's so much overwhelming information. That's probably the biggest thing, is that the information is just so overwhelming. And we break it down and show them very specific tools. We walk them through the process of how to use AI. We walk them through the process of prompts, but more importantly, how to use direct response and sales strategies that are true and foundational with AI to make it easier, get more effective, but also build that moat around you where everyone's just not using AI. They have the level up. They have the knowledge in their own brains to use AI in a way that nobody else is doing. That's a free event, and we do that really frequently, actually. And it's one of our big growth. Our whole goal with this brand actually is to become the premier source of AI information for entrepreneurs, micro entrepreneurs, small business owners, coaches, and consultants.
Love it. How old is that at this point?
We started in February.
Okay.
Yeah.
Getting going.
Yeah, it's getting going, but it's actually scaling extremely fast. The topic is just through the roof, and we have. I think we've had over just last month, I think we had 7,000 or 8,000 people register for it, and we had 5,000 people attend. Yeah, it's growing. Yeah.
Why the virtual event versus an automated webinar?
I think so. For our brand specifically, what we're doing, we could do an automated webinar. It would convert. I want to feel the audience first. Like, I want to know what's going on in the audience. I want to converse. And we're doing this really cool thing where it's almost creating a flywheel of positive attention. So there's people who come to our events again and again and again. Everyone who registers for our event are invited back to a Facebook group as well. And they just share positive experiences from what we do. And so I feel if we did an automated webinar right now, we would lose a little bit of that. I'm not against automated webinars. We've made tons of money from automated webinars. I love automated webinars. But right now, I want to understand my audience deeper than anybody else does. And so for me to speak to 1,000 people every other week or so, talking about AI and getting their ideas and getting feedback, there's no better way of just understanding the market than that. So not saying it won't be automated in the future, or we might do some other different process, but right now I want that human-to-human touch. Even though it's a virtual event, I want that human-to-human touch.
I dig it. Well, I know that you have to go sell people shit on a webinar.
That's right.
So I want to respect your time. Where do you want to point people?
AIforbusiness.com. Check us out. We got our events out there. And I appreciate the time, man.
Ablola. I love saying your last name.
There you
go. It's good to get some time to talk, man.
Oh, man, for sure.
Appreciate it, homie.
Appreciate it. There we go.